So a couple of months ago, I made a video talking about the HK UMP and how that it's not very good. It needed a lot of love and a couple of changes along the way to be good. It's almost like the devs actually listened to me, and recently they did a couple buffs across the board. They did some changes to the UMP itself and the ammo. So today we're going to be looking at the gun and whether it's actually viable in today's current meta. So let's start by looking at the stats of the UMP itself before and after the changes. Interesting enough, originally it had 53 ergo, 61 horizontal, and 220 vertical recoil. It now has 55 ergo, 53 horizontal recoil, and 204 vertical. This is about a +2 ergo buff, a -8 on the horizontal, and a whopping -16 on the vertical recoil, which is actually quite nuts. The ammos themselves also saw a couple of buffs across the board. The leg meta ammos, which we've tested in other videos like Hydroshock and Rip, also saw some buffs. Hydroshock went from 95 damage all the way up to 105, and Rip went from 127 damage to now 137. One of the lower tier ammos, Laser Match FMJ, went from 18 pen to 19 pen. And it went from 74 damage now to 80 damage, so about +6 on the flesh damage itself. Now, Match FMJ went from 19 pen to 25 pen, and it also went from 72 damage to 76. This is about a +6 on the pen and +4 on the flesh damage. And last but not least, the best ammo for 45 ACP. This was AP itself, actually saw the least amount of changes, but got +2 on its penetration, from 36 pen now to 38. As for buying the UMP, it seems like they listened to a couple of things that I actually talked about in one of my recent videos. The first one was buying that 25 round magazine at level 1 Peacekeeper. Now, it's almost like they were watching my video, because one of the things I complained about originally was that the fact that the magazines weren't available at level 1 Peacekeeper, although the trade was. Now, they finally listened and given us the full capacity mag, or 25 round mag, at level 1 Peacekeeper. This is a game changer, because if you find a UMP now, you can actually friggin' use it. As well as the fact that the starting ammo, the Match FMJ, also saw a little bit of a buff. Now, this ammo itself is actually really good for level 1, especially some of the ammos that you're given in comparison. It actually dwarfs 9mm PST GZH quite significantly. Now, level 2 Peacekeeper, you get to upgrade your ammo and you get your hands on Laser Match FMJ, which is a Tracer variant. Now, the Tracer variant has slightly better stats across the board, as well as the fact that it's still $1 a bullet. Now, Laser Match FMJ is an incredibly good round, but I did want to point out it does have a 300 per reset buy limit. Level 2 Peacekeeper is also really good because it allows you to purchase the UMP yourself. Now, you can actually buy it for about $278. Now, $278 is roughly about 34,000 rubles. So the gun itself is actually really cheap and effective, considering that it doesn't need much to be good. Now, at level 3 Peacekeeper, this is when you get the good ammos. You get 2 to choose from. Now, the first one is 45 ACP AP, which is honestly a completely bonkers round. As well as the fact that the ammo is quite cheap, at around $4 a bullet per reset. I did want to point out that you can only purchase 200 per reset, which isn't that much. So if you're going to be running this gun consecutively, you may need to stock the rounds over a couple resets. This is made worse by the fact that you cannot actually craft this ammo still, even though that was something that I talked about in one of my previous videos. I still believe the devs need to add a craft for this ammo. I think it's really essential for making the 45 ACP guns usable, or just bringing the price down of some of these rounds. Because sometimes 45's ACP AP can be 3k plus a bullet, which is more than M61, which makes no damn sense. Now, talking about the leg meta rounds, we also get an option here for Hydroshock. Now, Hydroshock is a great round, especially since it got that buff. Now, not only is Hydroshock quite cheap, it's also really effective at bringing down people's legs. Now, Hydroshock is a really good alternative, but it would probably be better fired out of the Vector due to the UMP's low fire rate. However, if you do put it in a UMP, it still will kill people in about 4 to 5 rounds, depending on their current HP. But if they're full HP and you hit the same leg, 5 rounds guaranteed to bring them down. Now moving on, we're going to look at one of the most insane rounds in the game in my personal opinion, and especially since it got buffed to 137 damage, and this is 45 ACP AP. Now you can fire this out of the UMP with its slower fire rate and still kill people quite quickly. I did want to point out it is a lot better in the Vector if you are going for legs, but because this round is about 391 rubles, it is pretty damn cheap. And if you put it in a UMP, it only actually takes 3 to 4 rounds to kill someone. Now, the reason I say 3 to 4 is because you do need to hit the same leg, as well as the fact that RIP actually has an incredibly high chance to cause a heavy bleed. So 3, and if they get a heavy bleed, they're very quickly going to die, but 4 to secure the kill. When it comes down to builds, there's not really much you need to do to this gun. In fact, you can't really do much at all. They still haven't given us the option to change the stock, which is a little bit disappointing. Now, if you are going to look at some of the attachments, the main one's going to be grip. If you want the lowest recoil, you can go for the Zenit RK2, but it is a complete and utter waste of money in my opinion. Something like the TD aluminium skeletonized pistol grip is actually amazing, as well as the fact that you can use something like the SI Cobra and get insane amounts of ergo, which I think is where this SMG thrives. I'm also a little bit of a sucker for the aesthetic of that nice slim grip on the front as well. You can use something like the AFG Magpul grip for a good balance of price, ergo, and recoil, as well as the fact that it looks really damn cool. We still have no barrel or thread adapters yet, although they do exist IRL. It's a bit of a shame because I do believe we need a compensator just to cut back that recoil just a tiny bit to make it viable at that lower fire rate. When it comes to scopes, however, there are a few considerations you need to consider. The first one is, the fact is the iron sight at the front is huge. You need to be careful because if you do run a low profile scope, an example would be like the RMR, when you look down the sight, all you're going to see is basically the entire iron sight itself. So when choosing different scopes, make sure you choose one that is high enough to go over the iron sight. A few recommendations would be something like the Valde Crochet, which is a cheap scope, or something like the EOTech Holos across the board. You can also use the Cobra sight, which is one of the cheapest options with the shade, as well as the fact that it doesn't actually counter the ergo at all. Now the Cobra sight is a little weird when aiming down the sight due to the way the irons are set up. So if you do use the Cobra sight, understand that the dot is going to be really low in the reticle itself, which may be a little bit weird for some of you out there. Although it is still good and it is really, really cheap. So overall, what are my thoughts on the UMP in the current state? It's good to see the fact that they reduced that recoil. I believe that the recoil was simply just too high. But the UMP still has a little bit further to go. The ammo feels really good right now, but the main ammo being 45 ACP AP is good, but it's still too expensive to run, especially after 1 or 2 good raids, you're completely out of ammo. So unless you stockpile it, you are going to be running out quite quickly. That being said, however, the 45 ACP laser match is actually feeling really good for the price, and with about 300 buy limit, that is also really, really good. And it also now competes with stuff like AP 6.3. I know that the other calibers have like things like the 9mm Vector and faster fire rates, but it does hit harder and it will bring people down, especially in level 4 to 5 armor. Level 6, you're going to struggle a little bit, but the truth of the matter is if you hit them headshots, you're basically going to go through any helmet in the game, except maybe the Alton. We still need some love for this gun, however, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. The first one would be just a lug adapter for a compensator or a damn suppressor. They exist IRL and I'd really like to see the option come around. Another one would be hopefully being able to change the stock to something like a different foldable or telescopic stock. I know that they exist IRL as well, and that would be a nice boost to the ergo. And last but not least, mag capacity. Now, I know there are 30 round to 50 round mags that exist IRL as well, and 25 rounds sometimes, even with the low fire rate, just simply isn't enough. The gun is still really enjoyable to use, and I have a bit of a soft spot for this gun. I've personally been running the UMP with something like a DVL or a sniper as a backup gun, It's a really good sidearm and has been really coming in clutch when I get pushed up close and personal. I did want to point out that the UMP, although it will kill people quite quickly, sometimes you'll lose to other people simply because their gun fires faster and you can't put enough damage down range quick enough. This is why I recommend when running this gun, you run ACP AP minimum, as the time to kill on this is actually really good now with the changes to the pen. It cuts through level 4 armor pretty consistently. In fact, I'm also going to be working on an armor test for the updated ammo stats. So if you guys don't want to miss that, consider subscribing to the channel down below. If you guys want to see me running this gun, I do stream live on Twitch. The link for that will be featured down below. Anyways, though, I appreciate you guys watching to the very end. And as always, we'll see you on the next one.